Hello crafty friends, welcome to my very first ever YouTube video. Today I am doing a page with this lovely flower dolphin cut file that's available in my Etsy shop. So you're going to watch as I try to figure out where to put all the photos on this page. I'm going to make a couple different decisions about that throughout the video, but right now I am seeing what I want to back the dolphin cut file with. When I was arranging the photos, you could see the photos through the cut file, so I wanted to make that solid to get a better idea of how that was going to look on my page. So when I back a cut file, I just flip the cut file to the back and the paper that I want to see to the back, trace it, and cut that out. It doesn't need to be an exact cut. You want it to kind of inset that pencil line a little bit, but you'll see once I get all of that put together, it's not exactly perfect. So it's going to be really easy to just trim off the extra bits than trying to make that first trace cut exact. So I'm just using my standard glue that I use. I use a tape runner to glue all of my cut files, because once you get them in the page protector, I find that they stick just fine. So you can see there's a little extra where I didn't trace it well enough or I didn't cut it well enough, but no worries, just trim off all those little extra bits pretty easily. So I'm using a background paper from 49th and Market, their Spectrum Sherbert collection. This was just such a pretty paper. So here I'm going to add some Heidi Swap sun catcher for most of the rest of the embellishments on this page. So I am finding papers that I like the colors of to match that 49th and Market paper to back the photos with. And I'm going to back that photo and then look over and realize I have the 6x8 paper pad. I really like the 6x8 paper pads for doing things like matting photos, because then I'm not cutting up a whole 12x12 that I might want to use as a background or need for a larger design element for another page. So I'm going to flip through the 6x8 and find 3 papers that I think go with the photos and really bring out those colors from the background paper. So I picked that pink cactus because I have no idea when else I will use a cactus living in Tennessee. I'm going to pick out a yellow that really brings out those background papers, and that rainbow for the main 4x6 photo there. So I'm going to trim those all up, and now I'm going to spend a bit of a time arranging these elements on the page. Real time, I feel like this took me 3 hours. That's an exaggeration, but it took me a long time to decide where everything was going to go, changed my mind a few different times, tried to look up some sketches to get a better idea. It really was a process. This is what felt like took the longest of this entire page. So I'm still rearranging photos, and now I'm going to try different background papers. You can see from the very beginning of the video, I do end up sticking with my original gut decision of the 49th and Market background, but it wasn't coming together right away, and so I decided, oh, well, maybe I needed to change something, but I make it work in the end. So this is when I decided having 3 individual photos was too much. There were too many elements to rearrange on the photo, so I mat the 2 smaller photos together on one photo mat, and that really helped simplify the design for me and really brought the page together. So I'm going to use a Tim Holtz stencil here. On the left side, I'm going to super speed this up. I have all of my Distress Oxides swatched on just some regular white cardstock. That tends to be what I use the most, is whatever just I happen to have on hand. So I end up going with Worn Lipstick, Scattered Straw, and Speckled Egg. I pulled those colors out of the background paper to make sure that I was really blending the 49th and Market and the Heidi Swap collections together. So I'm just using the domed foam applicator from scrapbook.com, and I'm going to use all three of those colors along the edge. I don't clean the stencil in between. I wanted the colors to blend together here pretty well, because that pink and that orange, the pink and the yellow is going to make a bit of an orange, which is also present in that background paper. But I kept the blue more separate from the others. I didn't want to end up with a purple section, and I didn't want to end up with too much green in there. Now that I've got the stencil all filled in, I'm going to use the speckled egg and some water and a watercolor paintbrush and use that to splatter some of that blue throughout the stencil area and down to the right where I know it's going to show. I like to use the paintbrush. I feel like I get more even, controlled splatter. Now comes the fun part of embellishing the page. I use this branding strip from the Heidi Swap Suncatcher line over to the left, and then as I begin to put it on, I realize I also want to ink the edges of everything. I'm going to use that light speckled egg color just to make sure that all of those cut edges, none of the white cardstock base is showing through, and give everything just a cohesive look. So that gets put down over to the left edge of the page, and I just really love that rainbow stencil and the rainbow branding strip and all of that coming together. So I ink the edges of my photos and I put adhesive on the back, but I don't quite attach them all the way down to the page yet. I'm still gonna fiddle with the arrangement of all of these pieces. So I decide the dolphin really looks best with the fin going over top of that photo. I've pulled out some embellishments here that I'm going to start deciding what I like and what I don't like. And that trapped space that's above those two photos where I just put that tag, I'm going to make sure that all gets covered up so that it looks purposeful. So I just go through the stack of embellishments, pull out things that make sense for these photos, which are from a trip to Panama City, Florida. And we went dolphin watching and obviously had a great time and got to see many dolphins on our trip. So I'm pulling out the things that apply to a Florida fun in the sun trip, even though I don't use that element. It was really cute. So I pull out the title words and trying to decide what I want this to be for my title, and I really liked the explore and the pinks on top of those light colors that I backed that cut file with. There was also a little area in that dolphin that ended up tearing, so I'm going to cover that up with the explore. I had these other alphas to do a subtitle or something with, but decided it didn't need it. So now I am just going to play around with the placement of all of these ephemera pieces from the Heidi Swap Suncatcher collection. So like everything else, I play around with the placement of all of these elements for a while. I really gravitated towards the pink and the blue elements, and then I made sure I had a copper piece. There's this really pretty copper foil in this collection from Heidi. I made sure I had each of the embellishment areas had a piece of that copper. I used that tag to cover up most of that trapped space area that I was mentioning earlier around the dolphin, and then decided I didn't want to cover it up with any of these other big elements. The pattern that was on that tag was really pretty, and I just wanted a couple other little accents to go in that area. I really liked that heart, but felt like it was just almost too colorful to add in at this point. I feel like the rainbow on the left is bringing in all of the colorful vibes that I need, and all the other elements I've pulled out, I was really gravitating towards the pastel colors, and so some of those bright pieces end up not making it on the page. So I'm still inking everything with that speckled egg, making sure everything is just lined up exactly where I want it to be. I'm also going to add some pop dots, so I'm going to make sure, in addition to the copper element in every cluster, I'm going to make sure something is popped up in every cluster as well. So I've added the copper star above the photos. I'm adding a copper love this to the left side, and the tag that's going to go over top of this good times tag also has copper foil edging. I really liked the good times tag. It definitely applied, but I wanted to get a more layered look, and as Shamal says, you can't get a layered look without covering stuff up. So I covered up good times and replaced it with a pop dotted have fun, which still also applied to this day in Florida. I debated adding a larger journaling block, and it was just too big for the page. I've gone too far into the page to add something that big. So I find this is my happy place, which totally applies for me on the water in the ocean. And I'm going to double check the sticker book and see if there's anything in there that really works well. Pulled out my crocodile to punch a hole in that yay tag. Put that up at the top, and I'm going to do a quick flip and see if there's anything else that I just have to get on this page. Again, take a look at these little alphabets if I need a subtitle, and it's just not happening. So I cut out this is my happy place, but instead of using the full tag, I just leave the lines that are below that title. So that really gives me almost what looks like a subtitle and a couple of lines for journaling. I decided to move that tag because, as I said earlier, I really liked those colors that were in this pastel-y watercolor tag, and so I didn't want to cover up quite as much of that. So I moved that yay over to the right, and I tuck this is my happy place right behind it. I did my journaling in a gray pen instead of black. There wasn't any other black really on that page, so I wanted the softer look of a gray pen for my little story. In this collection, there were also these rainbow stickers. They've got words and definitions on them, and so I'm going to pull out some of those blue ones and add those to all three cluster locations. The cluster that is on the left with the joyful and the love this, I really just felt like it definitely needed a couple of other elements to bring that all together. So I'm going to add some puffy stickers, grabbing again some of the blue, gravitating towards the blue and the pink from this collection, and making sure there was one of those in all three areas. I think taking my third flip through this sticker book to see if there was anything else, and I noticed that this left side didn't have any of that really light pink. So I grabbed this label. I'm going to cut it in half so I can use it in two locations. I'm going to add that to the top of the joyful tag. I'm going to peel up this sticker. I do a lot of sticking and then peeling up and then re-sticking when I'm layering up my pages. And so then all 3 locations have a bit of pink along with that blue. For the scrap pieces, after I had backed the dolphin cut file, I still had a couple of these stars. You can't really see them on the dolphin, but I thought they would be a really cute addition to bring that color and that paper all throughout the rest of the page as well. So I'm just going to cut those out with my scissors. We're going to add those to, again, the same 3 locations that I'm focusing on for the embellishment area. I'm also going to grab the top of the branding strip from that piece of paper and add that in just as a teeny tiny little element detail. Decide I didn't want to cover up any more of the cut file, so I'm going to add that piece to the bottom, and then I'm going to tuck these stars. I go back to the puffy stickers, I added another rainbow, and then I pull out some enamel dots. I've got 3 different brands here. I've got Gina Marie, Altenew, and Echo Park. So each area is going to get a group of 3 dots, 1 in each color. So I've got a dark teal, a light teal, and the pink, which is the colors that really I ended up pulling out for this page. The last thing to finish up, I pulled out some embroidery floss so I can fill in those tags. I don't like empty holes. So I grabbed this like gray pinkish color and this dark teal again, and decide that I'm going to not only fill in all of the holes in the tags, but I'm also going to add some like loose thread embroidery floss look to each of my clusters. So the first thing, I'm going to put a pink and a teal through each hole in all of the tags, and then I'm going to trim those up. So after I trim those up, I take these longer pieces, and embroidery floss or thread is made of 6 small strings of thread. So I'm going to pull those all apart and create 3 piles of 2 strands of each color. So each pile has 4 strands of embroidery floss. And when I create a pile like that, I literally just smoosh it up until it's about the size that I want it. And then I just use my tape runner, add some extra glue where I want to put that, make sure it's tucked behind something. I'm not just putting that out loose on its own on the page. Just so between the tape runner and another piece of embellishment somewhere on the page holding that down, they stick just fine. The thread is very light, so it doesn't really want to move anywhere. And with that, this page is all done. Here are some close-up shots so you can see some of the details of the clusters that came through together on this page. I really, really love how it turned out. Thank you so much for joining me for my very, very first YouTube video. I hope you'll like it if you enjoyed this and come back to see my next one. Bye-bye.